Becoming spiritually fit has got to start with understanding. And I'm feeling this truth very personally as I just recently started this CrossFit program. And I am so thankful that the instructors have taken the time to explain the exercises to me before sending me out to go do them so I don't make a complete fool out of myself. If the opposite of foolishness is wisdom, let's take a look at the book of wisdom, or the book of Proverbs, and see what it has to say. In Proverbs 4:7 it says, "The beginning of wisdom is this: get wisdom, and whatever you get understanding." Now that begs the question, how do we get spiritual understanding? Well, in the words of the famous poet Vanilla Ice, he says, "Stop, collaborate, and listen." Listening's essential to understanding. And if we need a more sure word than Vanilla Ice, then we can turn to Romans chapter 10, verse 17, where it says, "Faith comes by hearing." But even this raises another question. Who is it that we should be listening to? If you go back to Genesis chapter 3, when it records the history of Adam and Eve and the fall of man, you'll see that the second question that God asks Adam is, who told you that? It was a perfect question that was fitting with Satan's deception to trick man into thinking that he could judge or understand knowledge of good and evil for himself. So as we see, the whole fall of mankind was related to having the wrong source of knowledge. For an answer to that important question of who do we listen to, let's go back to Romans 10:17 and finish that verse. So it says, "Faith comes through hearing, and hearing through the word of Christ." I think we can safely conclude that we want the source of our understanding to be the words of God himself. So continuing along, that begs another question. So how do people fit into this? Well, let's go a little bit further ahead in that same chapter and take a look and see how people fit in. In verse 14, it says, "And how are they to hear without someone preaching? And how are they to preach unless they are sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who preach the good news." So maybe we could say it another way. God sends people to tell other people the words of Christ so that those people can connect directly with Christ. Essentially, that's what being born again means, is when a person comes into direct communication with Christ through the Holy Spirit. This actually gives us a great way to discern between true teachers and false teachers, because a true teacher is always going to try to connect someone directly to God himself. A false teacher is always going to try to make it necessary to come through themselves to connect to God. Now, to be sure that this is a possibility and even a promise, let's read in John chapter 16, where Jesus says to his disciples, "Ask the Father, and he will give you another helper to be with you forever, even the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive because it neither sees him nor knows him. You know him, for he dwells with you and will be in you." And again, a little bit further on in verse 26, it says, "But the Helper, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, he will teach you all things and bring to your remembrance all that I have said to you." And that's exactly how I see my calling and the purpose of these videos and this website, is that I might ensure that you are connected directly to God and that you stay directly connected to God. I'm a tool to bring the two of you together, or if you're already together, to help the two of you stay together. I encourage you to start with a simple prayer in your out loud voice. Lord, please give me wisdom and understanding. I'm listening.